My name is Odin Walker, but most people just call me Walker. I'm 72 years old, and on a night that should have felt familiar, the house I helped build, the walls I paid for, I was told I no longer belonged. My son didn't whisper it. He didn't hesitate. He yelled, "Pack your bags and get out. You have no choice." The room went still. No one stopped him. No one spoke for me. In that moment, I went from father to problem. I was pushed out like a stranger with no rights and no future. They believed I had nowhere to go. They believed I was finished. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I picked up my coat and walked toward the door, because what they didn't understand, what they couldn't see, was that forcing me out unlocked options they never knew existed. Before I tell you where I went and why the moment they needed my help, I was already gone, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop it in the comments. Your voices matter. To everyone who listens to these stories and stands with people who were cast aside, thank you. You remind us that dignity doesn't disappear when doors close. And if this is your first time here, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell. You're not just joining a channel. You're joining a family that knows sometimes being forced out is the greatest freedom of all. Now, listen carefully, because the night they thought they erased me was the night my real story began. I built that house with my own 2 hands. Not figuratively, literally. 43 years ago, when my wife Loon was 6 months pregnant with our son Calix, I cleared the land myself, poured the foundation on weekends, framed the walls with my construction crew. I remember Loon standing there in her yellow sundress, one hand on her belly, watching me hammer in the last beam. She said, "This is where we'll grow old, Walker." And I believed her. We raised 2 kids in that house, Calix and his younger sister Yara. Birthday parties in the backyard. Christmas mornings by the fireplace I built from Riverstone. Loon's vegetable garden that she tended every spring until the cancer took her strength. 8 years ago, Loon passed. The house felt too big after that. Too quiet. But Calix said, "Dad, don't sell it. Keep it in the family." So I stayed. And when he married Elson 3 years ago, they moved in with me. Just temporarily, they said, until we save up. Temporarily became permanent. I didn't mind at first. Calix was my son. Elson was polite, if a bit distant. And when their kids came, 2 beautiful grandchildren, I thought, this is what family looks like. Generations under one roof. But then things started changing. Small things at first. Elson redecorated the living room without asking. Painted over the walls Loon had chosen. Replaced the old furniture with sleek, modern pieces that looked expensive and cold. I came home one day to find Loon's garden ripped out, replaced with decorative stones and succulents. "It's more low maintenance," Elson explained, not meeting my eyes. I didn't say anything. What could I say? It was still my house legally, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. Calix stopped asking how my day was. Stopped sitting with me after dinner. He'd disappear into his home office, door closed, while Elson watched shows on the TV I'd bought. I started noticing the whispers. Conversations that stopped the moment I entered a room. Elson's mother visiting more often, her eyes sweeping over me like I was furniture she was measuring for removal. One evening, I overheard them through the vent. Elson's voice, sharp. "He's not going to live forever, Calix. We need to plan." Calix, quieter. "I know, but he's still here. What am I supposed to do?" "Make him understand. This is our house now. He had his turn." I sat in my bedroom that night, staring at the ceiling Loon and I had painted together, and felt something crack inside my chest. The next week, they called a family meeting. Calix and Elson sat across from me at the kitchen table. Their faces were rehearsed. Calm. Like they'd practiced this. "Dad," Calix started, his hands folded like he was about to deliver bad news at a business meeting. "Elson and I have been talking. The kids are getting older. They need more space. And honestly, we think it's time for you to consider other living arrangements." I stared at him. Other living arrangements? Elson jumped in, her voice sickly sweet. There are wonderful senior communities nearby, Odin. Places where you'd have people your own age. Activities. It might be better for you. I looked at my son. My boy. The kid I taught to throw a baseball, to change a tire, to stand up for himself. You want me to leave, I said slowly. Calix shifted. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Silence. Elson's smile tightened. We're not asking you to leave tomorrow. We're just suggesting that maybe it's time to think about your future. My future. I let the words hang there. In the house I built. Dad! Calix's voice had an edge now. Impatience. You signed the deed over to me 5 years ago. Legally, this is my house. And there it was. The truth they'd been dancing around. I had signed it over. After Loon died, Calix convinced me it was the smart move. For estate planning, Dad, to avoid probate. You'll still live here, obviously. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of my own foolishness settle in my bones. So, that's it, I said. You want me out? Elson stood up, smoothing her dress. We're giving you time, Odin. 2 weeks should be enough to find something suitable. 2 weeks? To pack up 43 years? To erase myself from the walls I'd built? I looked at Calix one more time, searching his face for the boy I used to know. He wouldn't meet my eyes. All right, I said quietly. 2 weeks. I stood and walked to my bedroom, my legs feeling like they belonged to someone else. Behind me, I heard Elson whisper, See? That wasn't so hard. I want you to pause right here, because what happened in those 2 weeks, what I found buried in my own attic, changed everything. But before I tell you what it was, I need to know you're really paying attention. If you've ever been pushed aside by someone you trusted, if you've ever felt invisible in your own life, drop a comment right now. Tell me, I'm listening, Walker. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because what comes next isn't just my story getting worse. It's the moment I realized they made the biggest mistake of their lives. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. The next chapter reveals the secret I'd forgotten I had. And trust me, they're going to wish they'd treated me better. Don't miss it. The first thing Elson did was start packing my belongings. Not to help, to hurry me along. I came back from a walk, trying to clear my head, trying to figure out where a 72-year-old man with a fixed income goes when his own family doesn't want him, and found her in my bedroom, folding my clothes into boxes. Just trying to make this easier for you, she said brightly, like she was doing me a favor. I stood in the doorway, watching this woman handle my things. Loon's old reading glasses, still on the nightstand. The photo of our wedding day. The wool blanket Loon crocheted during her chemo treatments. Elson picked up the blanket, frowned at it, and tossed it in a box labeled Donate. That was my wife's, I said, my voice barely steady. She paused. Oh. Well, it's pretty worn. I just thought, put it back. Something in my tone made her stop. She placed it carefully on the bed and left without another word. But the damage was done. I called my daughter Yara that night. She lives in Oregon now, about 2,000 miles away, married to a tech guy named Ezra, 2 kids of her own. We talk maybe once a month, polite conversations that never go deep. Dad? Her voice was cautious, like she already knew why I was calling. Yara, did your brother talk to you? A pause. Too long. He mentioned you guys were making some changes. Changes? I almost laughed. He's kicking me out, sweetheart. Dad, that's not... Look, Calix said you agreed it might be better if you found your own place. He said you were on board. On board? My hand tightened around the phone. I was ambushed at my own kitchen table and told I had 2 weeks. Another pause. I could hear her kids playing in the background. A normal evening in a normal house where nobody was being erased. Dad, I have my own family. I can't just... I'm not asking you to take me in, Yara. I'm asking you to talk to your brother. Tell him this is wrong." Silence. "Maybe it's not the worst idea," she said finally, her voice small. "You're getting older. Those senior communities have nurses on staff, activities, people your age. I don't need a nursing home. I need my family. Dad, forget it." I hung up before she could finish. My own daughter, my little girl who I taught to ride a bike, who cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart, who I walked down the aisle. She'd already chosen sides. The next week crawled by like a slow death. Calix avoided me completely. Left early for work, came home late. On the rare occasions we crossed paths, he'd nod stiffly and disappear into his office. Elson had her mother over constantly now, the two of them measuring rooms, discussing paint colors, planning the renovations they'd start once Odin settled somewhere. I felt like a ghost in my own house. On day 10, I tried one more time. I found Calix in the garage organizing tools. My tools, the ones I'd collected over 40 years of construction work. "Son," I said, "can we talk?" He didn't look up. "I'm busy, Dad." "This won't take long." I stepped closer. "I know things have been tense, but this house, it's not just a house to me. It's where your mother and I— Don't," his voice was sharp, "don't guilt-trip me with the dead mom card." The words hit me like a fist. Guilt trip? I stared at him. "I raised you in this house. I paid for your college. I co-signed your first car loan when no bank would touch you. I was there when— And I'm supposed to owe you forever." Calix finally looked at me, his face hard. "You did your job as a father. Congratulations. That doesn't mean I have to take care of you for the rest of your life." "I'm not asking you to take care of me. I'm asking you not to throw me away like I'm nothing." "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" My voice rose despite myself. "You won't even look at me anymore. Your wife is packing my belongings. Your sister won't return my calls. I built this house with my bare hands, Calix. I bled into these walls." "And I appreciate that," he said flatly. "But it's mine now, legally, and Elson and I have made our decision." Just like that. Just like that. We stood there in the garage 10 feet apart, an ocean between us. "You know what your mother would say if she could see this?" I asked quietly. Calix's jaw tightened. "Mom's not here, and this isn't her choice to make." He walked past me, back into the house. I stood alone among the tools I'd used to build him a life. The final day came too fast. I packed the last of my things into 2 old suitcases and 3 cardboard boxes. Everything else, decades of memories, either donated or thrown away. Calix wasn't even home. Elson stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me load my car. Her mother was there too, already taking measurements for new curtains. "Do you have somewhere to go?" Elson asked, almost polite now that she was getting what she wanted. "Does it matter?" She had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Odin, this isn't personal. We just need the space." "You needed space more than you needed decency." I slammed the trunk shut. Before I got in the car, I turned back one last time. The house stood there, solid and familiar. The porch I'd built with Rook, my old construction buddy, one summer 30 years ago. The window where Loon used to wave goodbye when I left for work. The roof I'd replaced twice, once after a storm, once just because it was time. It wasn't their house. It was mine. But the law didn't care, and neither did they. I drove away without looking back, my hands shaking on the wheel. I ended up at the Evergreen Motel on Route 9. $45 a night, questionable stains on the carpet, a window that didn't quite close. I sat on the edge of the bed that first night staring at my phone. No calls, no texts, not from Calix, not from Yara, not from anyone. I thought about calling Rook, my old friend from the crew, but pride stopped me. I didn't want him to see me like this. Broken. Pathetic. So I sat there in that cheap motel room, alone, feeling like I'd been erased from my own life. That's when I remembered the attic. In all the chaos of packing, there was one box I'd grabbed on instinct, an old lockbox I'd shoved in the back of the attic years ago and forgotten about. I pulled it out now, hands trembling. Inside, yellowed papers, contracts, legal documents from decades ago, partnership agreements, property deeds, financial records from before Loon got sick, when I still had business interests beyond my construction work. And there, at the bottom, a document I hadn't looked at in 30 years. A deed to a commercial property on Riverside Avenue, co-owned with my late friend Pax, who'd passed away 10 years ago. The property had been tied up in legal complications after Pax died. His estate was a mess. I'd been too overwhelmed with Loon's illness to pursue it, and eventually I just forgot. But the document was clear. I owned 60%. And according to the last tax assessment tucked in the envelope, dated 3 years ago, the property was worth over $1 million. I sat there in that motel room, staring at that paper, and for the first time in 2 weeks, I smiled. I didn't tell anyone about the property. Not Rook, not Yara, certainly not Calix. The morning after I found those documents, I sat in that motel room with terrible coffee and did something I hadn't done in years. I planned. First, I needed to verify what I had. The paperwork was old. 30 years can change a lot. Property could have been sold, seized, demolished. For all I knew, I was sitting on worthless paper and false hope. I drove to the county recorder's office that afternoon. The clerk was a young woman named Maya who looked at me like I was her grandfather. Patient, kind, the way people treat the elderly when they think you're confused. I need to verify ownership of a commercial property, I said, sliding the deed across the counter. She typed into her computer, frowned, typed some more. Riverside Avenue, Lot 447, she said finally. Yeah, it's here. Co-ownership between Odin Walker and Pax Brennan, 60-40 split. Mr. Brennan deceased as of 2015, estate unresolved. She looked up at me. Are you Odin Walker? I am. Then congratulations, sir. You own the majority share of a 12,000 square foot commercial building currently leased to 3 businesses. Last assessed value. She whistled low. $1.2 million. The room tilted slightly. $1.2 million, I repeated. Yes, sir. Though if you haven't been receiving lease payments, you'll want to talk to a lawyer. There might be some back rent owed to you. I walked out of that office in a daze. $1.2 million. Money I didn't know I had. Money they didn't know I had. I sat in my car for 20 minutes just breathing. Then I called Rook. Walker, Jesus, man, I've been trying to reach you. Calix won't tell me where you are. You okay? Hearing his voice, rough and familiar and real, almost broke me. I'm at the Evergreen Motel on Route 9, I said. That shithole? Walker, come stay with me and Patty. We got a spare room. I need a lawyer, Rook, a good one, real estate specialist. Pause. What's going on? I can't explain yet, but I need someone sharp, someone who won't ask too many questions. I know a guy, Rook said slowly. Young hotshot named Ezra Chen. Helped my nephew with a property dispute last year. Smart as hell. Want me to set up a meeting? Yes, soon as possible. You got it. But Walker, you gonna tell me what this is about? When I'm ready, brother. When I'm ready. I met Ezra Chen 3 days later at a coffee shop downtown. He was maybe 30, sharp suit, sharper eyes, the kind of lawyer who doesn't waste time on small talk. I laid out the documents. He read them twice, then looked up at me with something like respect. Mr. Walker, do you understand what you're sitting on? Tell me. You own 60% of a prime commercial property in a rapidly developing area. The tenants have been paying rent to an escrow account managed by Pax Brennan's estate attorney, who, from what I can see here, has been letting it accumulate because the estate dispute was never resolved. No heirs came forward with a strong enough claim. How much? In the escrow account? I'd need to verify, but based on standard commercial rates for that area, he calculated on his phone. roughly $340,000 in accumulated rent payments over the past decade, plus the property value itself. My hands were shaking. What do I need to do? File a claim as majority owner, resolve the estate issue, which should be straightforward since you have clear documentation and Pax's side has no legitimate competing claimants. Then you can either continue collecting rent or sell your share. He leaned forward. Mr. Walker, this is a significant asset. You need to move carefully. Do you have anyone who might contest this? I thought about Calix, about the house he'd taken from me. No, I said. No one knows about this but you. Good. Let's keep it that way until the paperwork is locked down. I'll file the necessary documents this week. We shook hands. Walking out of that coffee shop, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Power. The next 8 weeks were a blur of legal documents, meetings, and waiting. Ezra was as good as Rook promised. He cut through decades of red tape, filed the claims, cleared the estate complications. Pax's distant relatives tried to contest, but they had no documentation. I did. By October, the property was officially mine. Ezra presented me with 2 options. Keep collecting rent, roughly $3,500 a month after expenses, or sell. The market's hot right now, he said. I have a developer client who's been eyeing this location. They'd pay $1.4 million cash, close in 30 days. I thought about that motel room, about Calix's face when he told me to pack my bags. Sell it, I said. You sure? That's a steady income stream if you keep it. I'm sure. The sale closed the week before Thanksgiving. After legal fees and taxes, I walked away with just over $950,000. I paid Ezra a bonus for his speed and discretion. Then I did something I'd been dreaming about for 2 months. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment in a quiet building near the lake. Clean. Peaceful. A place where no one whispered about me when I left the room. I bought new furniture. Not expensive, but mine. I opened a savings account and invested most of the money conservatively. At 72, I didn't need to be rich. I needed to be secure. For the first time since Loon died, I could breathe. I started volunteering at the Riverside Community Workshop 3 days a week, teaching carpentry to at-risk kids and veterans. It gave me purpose, reminded me who I was before I became a problem to be solved. The kids called me Mr. Walker, or sometimes just Pops. One of them, a 17-year-old named Marcus with a smart mouth and talented hands, asked me once why I was there. Because nobody taught you how to build something with your own hands, I said. And that's a damn shame. He grinned. My pops taught me how to break stuff. That count? Then I'm teaching you the opposite. I didn't think about Calix. I didn't call Yara. I let the silence grow. And then, on a Tuesday in late November, my phone rang. Calix's name lit up the screen. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Dad? His voice was strained. Wrong. Calix. Dad, we need to talk. Can I see you? About what? A pause. I could hear him breathing. We're in trouble, he said finally. Real trouble. Can we meet? Please? I looked out my apartment window at the lake, calm and gray. Riverside coffee, tomorrow at 2. Thank you, Dad. Thank you so... I hung up. For 8 weeks I was invisible. For 8 weeks they thought I'd disappeared into some nursing home or died alone in a cheap motel. And now they needed me. If you want to see the look on Calix's face when he realizes his father isn't broken anymore, if you want to hear what he's about to beg me for, you better subscribe right now. It's the moment I get to decide, do I save them or do I let them drown? Hit subscribe. Smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me what you would do. Would you help the family that threw you away? Or would you walk away and never look back? The answer might surprise you. Don't miss what happens next. He looked terrible. That was the first thing I noticed when Calix walked into Riverside Coffee the next afternoon. My son, always put together, always confident, looked like he hadn't slept in days. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, the kind of exhaustion that comes from drowning slowly and knowing no one's going to throw you a rope. He spotted me in the corner booth and something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. I'd gained back the weight I'd lost in that motel. Got a decent haircut. I was wearing a new jacket, nothing fancy but clean and mine. I looked like a man who had his life together. Because I did. "Dad," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "You look good." "You don't?" He flinched. "Yeah, it's been rough." I sipped my coffee and waited. Calix rubbed his face. "I don't know where to start." "Start with why you're here." He took a breath, let it out slow. "Elson got laid off 3 months ago. Her company downsized and she was part of the cuts. We thought she'd find something quick. Her field's usually pretty stable, but nothing's come through." He was talking fast now, the words spilling out. "We've been burning through savings. And the mortgage. Dad, the mortgage on that house is $3,800 a month. We're 3 months behind. The bank sent a foreclosure notice last week." I kept my face neutral. "I see. We've tried everything. Elson's been applying everywhere. I picked up weekend work driving for a delivery service, but it's not enough. We're drowning." "That's hard," I said simply. He looked at me, desperate. "We need help, Dad. I know I have no right to ask. I know what I did was wrong. But the kids, your grandchildren, they're going to lose their home. The home I built." His face crumpled. "Yes, the home you built, and I took it from you. I know that. I was selfish and stupid and cruel, and I've regretted it every single day since you left." "Have you?" "Yes." His voice cracked. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Elson and I, we got caught up in wanting more space, wanting things to be ours, and we stopped seeing you as my father and started seeing you as an obstacle. That was wrong. That was so wrong." I watched him, this broken version of my son. "What exactly are you asking me for, Calix?" He swallowed hard. "A loan. Or, if you have any savings, maybe you could co-sign for a refinance. Anything that could buy us time." "How much time?" 6 months, maybe, until Elson finds work, until we can get back on our feet." "And if Elson doesn't find work in 6 months?" He didn't have an answer. I took another sip of coffee, watched a young couple at the next table laughing over shared pastries. "Where's Elson now?" I asked. "In the car. She didn't think you'd want to see her." "She was right." Calix flinched again. "What about Yara?" I asked. "Did you ask your sister?" "She can't help. Ezra's company is going through layoffs too. They're barely holding on themselves." "So, I'm the last option." "You're my father," he said quietly. "You're not an option. You're the only person I trust to tell me the truth, even if it hurts." I set down my coffee cup. "The truth is, Calix, when you told me to pack my bags, when you stood there and watched me load my car while your wife measured the rooms I was leaving behind, you made a choice. I know. You chose to see me as a burden instead of a person. You chose your comfort over my dignity. And when I drove away from that house, I was so broken I didn't think I'd survive the grief." Tears were running down his face now. He didn't wipe them away. "But you did survive," he whispered. "Yes, I did." I leaned forward. "Do you know where I've been living, Calix?" I assumed a senior home or a 45-a-night motel for 2 weeks while I figured out if I wanted to keep living at all. He looked like I'd slapped him. "And then I found something," I continued, "something I'd forgotten I had. And you know what I realized? I didn't need you. I didn't need Yara. I didn't need anyone to save me because I'd been saving myself my whole life. Dad, now you're asking me to save you. I am. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you. Why should I?" The question hung in the air between us. Calix was quiet for a long moment. "Because I'm your son," he said finally, "and because even though I failed you, I still love you. And I hope, you still love me. I did. God help me. I did. That was the problem. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope, slid it across the table. Calix stared at it like it might bite him. "Open it," I said. He did. Inside was a check for $50,000. His hand shook as he held it. "Dad, that's not a gift, Calix. It's a loan." He looked up at me, confused. "You'll sign a contract," I said. "You'll pay me back every cent at 3% interest over 5 years. Monthly payments. If you miss 2 payments in a row, I call the full balance due. And you'll never, and I mean never, treat someone you love like they're disposable again." "I won't. I swear I won't. There's one more condition." "Anything." "You apologize to your mother." His face went white. She's gone, Dad." "I know. But you go to her grave and you tell her what you did. And you tell her you're going to be better. You do that before you cash that check." He was openly sobbing now. Okay, I will." I stood up, placed 2 20s on the table for the coffee. "This doesn't fix us, Calix. This doesn't undo what you did, but it gives you a chance to prove you're better than your worst moment." "Thank you." He could barely get the words out. "Thank you, Dad." I looked at him one more time, my son, broken and grateful and maybe finally learning what it costs to hurt someone who loved you. "Don't thank me," I said. "Just do better." I walked out of that coffee shop into the cold November air, and for the first time since Loon died I felt like myself again. Not because I'd gotten revenge, because I'd remembered that mercy isn't about them. It's about who you choose to be when no one's watching. You probably expected me to tell him no. You probably wanted me to watch him beg and walk away. And I won't lie, part of me wanted that too. But here's what I learned in that motel room, in those weeks of silence. Revenge is easy. Rebuilding yourself is hard. If this story hit you, if you've ever had to choose between bitterness and grace, I need you to do 3 things. 1. Subscribe to this channel right now. 2. Hit that like button so hard it breaks. 3. Comment and tell me, was I too soft? Or did I do the right thing? That's where you find out if my daughter Yara ever bothered to apologize, and what happened when she didn't. This story isn't over, not even close. Subscribe now. You won't want to miss the ending. 3 days after our meeting, Calix showed up at my apartment. I didn't expect him, didn't invite him. But when I opened the door, there he stood, eyes red, face pale, holding a small wooden box. "Dad," he said, "I did what you asked." I let him in. We sat at my small kitchen table. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of kids playing by the lake. He placed the box on the table between us. It was old cedar, handmade. I recognized it immediately. I'd built it for Loon on our 10th anniversary. "I went to Mom's grave this morning," Calix said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I told her everything. What I did to you. How I treated you like you were nothing. How I put my comfort above your dignity." He paused, swallowing hard. "I told her I was sorry, that I'd forgotten everything she taught me about family." I didn't speak, just waited. When I was leaving, I remembered this box. Mom kept it on her dresser, remember? I found it in the back of my closet when we were packing your things. His voice cracked. I almost threw it out. Elson said it was just old junk, but something stopped me. He opened the box. Inside were letters, dozens of them, in Loon's handwriting. "I didn't read them until last night," Calix continued. "They're letters she wrote to you, during her chemo treatments, when you were working double shifts to pay the medical bills." He pulled one out, unfolded it carefully. She wrote about how much she loved you, how you were the strongest man she'd ever known, how she worried about you being alone after she was gone. He looked up at me, tears streaming freely now. "In the last letter she wrote about us, me and Yara. She said her greatest fear wasn't dying. It was that we'd forget how to take care of you the way you took care of us our whole lives." His voice broke completely. "And I did exactly what she was afraid of. I forgot, Dad. I forgot everything." I reached across the table and took the letter from his shaking hands. Loon's handwriting, still beautiful, even weakened by illness. "My dearest Walker, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. But I need you to know something. You gave me the best life any woman could ask for. You were my shelter, my strength, my home. Take care of our children, but more importantly, let them take care of you. You've earned the right to be loved, not just to give love. Promise me you won't disappear into yourself when I'm gone. Promise me you'll let people see how extraordinary you are." I couldn't finish it. I folded it carefully and placed it back in the box. "She saw me better than I saw myself," I said finally. "She saw both of us better than we saw ourselves," Calix replied. He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. "I had Ezra, your lawyer, right? Draft the loan agreement. I signed it. Monthly payments start February 1st, 3% interest over 5 years. Every word you said." He slid it across the table. I looked at it. Legal, binding, real. "I deposited the check this morning," he continued. "We're meeting with the bank tomorrow to get current on the mortgage. Elson started a new job last week. It's not what she had before, but it's something. We're going to make this work, Dad. I swear to you. And if you can't," he met my eyes, "then we downsize, sell the house, move into something we can actually afford, but we do it with dignity, and we don't blame anyone else for our mistakes." I nodded slowly. "There's something else," Calix said. "Elson and we're separating." I felt a jolt of surprise. "Because of this?" "Because of a lot of things. This situation just made us face what we'd been avoiding. We weren't good together, Dad. We brought out the worst in each other. The greed, the entitlement. She agrees. It's better if we co-parent from different homes." "I'm sorry, son." "Don't be. It's the right choice." He managed a weak smile. "Maybe I'm finally making some of those." We sat in silence for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" Calix said. "Where did you get the money? We all thought, you were living on Social Security." I considered lying, keeping my secret a little longer. But Loon's letters were right there between us, and she'd always valued honesty above everything. "I owned property," I said. "Commercial real estate from before you were born, co-owned with my old friend Pax. When he died, the estate got complicated, and I forgot about it during your mother's illness. When you kicked me out, I found the documents in the attic. Turned out it was worth over $1 million. Calix's face went through several emotions at once. Shock, disbelief, horror. $1 million. He couldn't finish the sentence. "I sold it. After you threw me out. After I sat in that motel room wondering if anyone would even notice if I disappeared." "Oh my God." He put his head in his hands. "You had money the whole time." "No. I had it after you decided I was worthless. There's a difference." He looked at me, devastated. "You could have told me. When I came begging." "I could have. But you needed to understand what it felt like to have nothing, to need help from someone who owed you nothing." I leaned forward. "That check I gave you, that wasn't mercy, Calix. That was a lesson. And you're paying for it, literally, for the next 5 years." He nodded slowly, understanding settling into his features. "Thank you," he whispered, "for teaching me what I should have learned years ago. Thank your mother. She's the one who never gave up on us." He reached across the table, tentative. I took his hand. We sat like that for a long time, father and son, broken and healing, not fixed, not yet, but building. Yara called on Christmas Eve. I was at Calix's house, a careful, tentative visit, the first since the eviction. The kids were excited to see me, showing me the wooden toy box I'd made for them before everything fell apart. Calix had kept it. That meant something. When my phone rang and Yara's name appeared, everyone went quiet. I stepped onto the porch to answer. Dad? Merry Christmas? Her voice was bright, performative. Yara. I've been meaning to call for a while. Things have been so busy, you know how it is. But I was thinking we should catch up. Maybe you could come visit us in Oregon. The kids would love to see Grandpa. I looked through the window at Calix helping his daughter hang an ornament. At the family I was slowly rebuilding, brick by careful brick. Why are you really calling, Yara? Silence. Then, Ezra lost his job. We're struggling, Dad. I thought maybe you could help us out. Just for a few months. Nothing major. There it was. Not, I'm sorry I abandoned you. Not, I should have defended you. Just her hand out, expecting me to fill it because that's what I'd always done. How much do you need? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Maybe 20,000? We're behind on the mortgage and… No. The word hung in the winter air. What? I said no, Yara. Dad, we're family. You can't just… When Calix threw me out of the house I built, you told me it might be for the best. You suggested a nursing home. You chose your comfort over my dignity. I didn't know what to do. I was caught in the middle. There was no middle, Yara. There was your father being thrown away like trash, and there was you deciding not to make waves. My voice was calm, steady. Calix came back. He apologized. He went to your mother's grave and faced what he'd done. He signed a loan contract and he's paying me back every month. He earned a second chance. And I haven't? Her voice rose, defensive. That's not fair. You're right, it's not fair. Just like it wasn't fair when you left me to figure out homelessness at 72 years old. I paused. But unlike Calix, you're not calling to apologize. You're calling because you need money, and that's not the same thing. So what? You're just going to let us lose our house? You're an adult with a husband and your own life. Your choices are your responsibility, just like you told me mine were. I could hear her crying now, but it was angry crying, entitled crying. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe it took you 8 months in a financial crisis to call your father. Fine, she shouted. Fine, don't help us, but don't expect me to come running when you need something someday. I won't, I said quietly. I learned a long time ago not to expect anything from anyone. That's how you survive, Yara. You should try it. I hung up before she could respond. When I walked back inside, Calix was standing in the doorway. He'd heard. She didn't apologize, did she? He asked. No. He shook his head. Some of us have to lose everything before we learn, and some of us never learn at all. That's not your burden to carry anymore, son. Is it yours? I thought about that. About Loon's letters. About the house I built and the family I'd raised and the life I'd reconstructed from nothing. No, I said finally. It's not. We went back inside where my grandchildren were arguing over who got to put the star on the tree. Later that night, after the kids were in bed and Calix had driven me home, I sat in my apartment looking at the lake. My phone buzzed. A text from Rook. Patty made extra cookies. Bringing some by tomorrow. You good? Yeah, brother, I'm good. Another text. Marcus from the workshop. Merry Christmas, Pops. Finished that chair you showed me how to make. Can't wait to show you. Can't wait to see it. I opened the cedar box Calix had returned to me. Read through Loon's letters again. In the last one, she'd written, Don't let bitterness make you small, Walker. You're too big-hearted for that. But don't let people take advantage of that heart either. Know your worth. Demand it. And never apologize for standing up for yourself. I smiled, tracing her handwriting with my finger. I learned, Loon. I whispered to the empty room. It took me a while, but I learned. They thought throwing me out was the end of my story, but it was just the beginning of knowing my worth. And that was worth more than any house, any money, any hollow apology could ever be. I built my life once from nothing. I could do it again, and this time I built it for me. So that's my story. Not the ending some of you expected, maybe, but it's the ending I earned. Here's what I want you to take from this. You are not defined by who throws you away. You are defined by how you rebuild. And sometimes the greatest victory isn't revenge. It's becoming someone so whole, so complete, that their rejection can't touch you anymore. If this story moved you, if you've ever been cast aside and found your way back, do these 3 things. 1. Subscribe to this channel. These stories matter, and your support keeps them coming. 2. Smash that like button. Let's get this story to people who need to hear it. 3. Comment below. Have you ever had to choose between helping someone who hurt you or protecting your peace? What did you choose? And if you know someone who's struggling with family betrayal, share this video. Maybe it'll help them see they're not alone. My name is Odin Walker. People call me Walker. And I'm still building. Thank you for listening.